Live right here with David Shark Fralick. And why are we here?
As you're smart, you'll pay attention and tune in, either listen or watch, and he's going to tell you how now.
Hey, Shark, what's happening, brother?
Hey there, Big Jess. Good to see you, big dog. How's that life in the family?
Hey, it's doing good. I guess we have a little bit of a delay here because a lot of people are now online podcasting and broadcasting. You know, that's the new way of things now. No longer do we have connection between individuals. We've got this better than a 976 line, man. Terry, let's check with Terry and see if he can hear me. Terry, you hear me okay?
I hear you. Can you see me?
I see and hear you. You look great, man. I love the beard, looking sharp, like the background. You're ready. And I don't know if Sharp hears us, but we'll try to work on that as the show goes. I call you the Titan of Truth, Terry. Terry, the truth teller. What's happening, my friend? You recently wrote a book. Tell me a little bit about that.
I did. It's called The Rules of the Game, and it has to do with redemption. Well, it was from a personal experience that I had to go through. Sometimes the good Lord has you go through trials and tribulations in order to come out the other side right. So, I'm somebody that was falsely accused and put in prison for many years.
Did you find that the book was able to clear a lot of the thoughts out of your head and kind of get you thinking in a different direction? Or was the book sort of like a book of redemption?
Well, the book kind of brought up a lot of bad memories, but at the same time, it allowed me to have a little closure and hopefully direct some folks in the right way in order to make sure they don't make the same mistakes I made.
What were some of the hard points when you were putting the book together? Because, as you said, it's a book about your life and your life story up to that point. Was there a part of the material when you were putting it together that really kind of, you had to go really introspect on a look and come out on the other end? Or did it just come together really easily?
No, it was a deep, introspective journey. And I was encouraged to write it by a friend, a small-time sort of Hollywood producer. He told me, hey, write the book, I'll do a movie on it. And so he inspired it. We sort of parted ways before the movie could get done. But I'm seeking other avenues for that.
Great, man. Let's see, hey, Sharp, are you there? Can you hear me, Sharp?
Slight delay, and it beeps in now and then, but get 90% of it.
Okay, that's good. So when we work with you, we're just going to have to kind of deal with that delay a little bit.
Thank you for having us on the show.
Hey, absolutely. So haven't talked to you in a while, Shark. What you been up to? I know you've been back home taking care of family business during this whole Chinese bioweapon attack on the Western world and America. How have you been handling it?
What's that?
Well, we're really having a little bit of a problem here. So you know what I'm going to do, Shark? I'm going to give you a call here in just a minute. And we're going to reach a call, and we'll talk to you on the phone, audio-wise, but we'll keep you on the visual. So it'll basically, at least you'll be able to hear, and then you can respond. So I think that's how we're going to handle that.
I can hear right now. I thought you were directing. I can hear you now. I thought you were directing that question to Terry. And I heard you say something about what happens if some kind of biological weapons goes off. What would I do?
That's why I think we're going to change it a little bit with you here, and so you get a little more precise on you don't have that delay. I was talking about how you've been handling this in the South. I know you've been home taking care of business. We haven't talked to you in a while. So, last time we talked to you, had our last Roundup show. Oh man, it's been about a year now. So how you doing?
Any better between, put it that way.
Yeah, so
we all have challenges, and maybe I'd call you on the other line, so long as you don't reverb and whatever stick.
I'm going to do that right now with you. I'm going to reach out and give you a call. That's why I love doing these things live, because when we're live, man, I tell you what, we got to solve the problems on the fly, just like that. So, gentlemen, watch this and let me know what you think about it, because I think this will be leading to one of our part of our conversation tonight. And here we go.
What if I were to tell you that a small group of government contractors were
We're having lots of challenges tonight.
hired by government officials to frame the Trump campaign, set him up for the Russia collusion investigation, provided witnesses for the impeachment hearings, and provided administrative support services to the Department of Justice during the Mueller investigation? And what if it just so happened that the same group of contractors are behind the fake news in mainstream media, influence operations on social media, and the civil unrest nationwide pushing the defund the police movement? The Obamagate scandal only scratches the surface.
You mentioned shock value. That is shocking what the Russians did. I agree. We need to stop it.
I know that now based on the horrible truth.
I'm not saying that you lied to the court. I'm saying you signed something that was a lie and you didn't know it.
Talk about a cover story. What really happened is much more alarming. Both parties are equally guilty of covering up what should turn out to be an even bigger scandal, Shadowgate. The tactical and operational role the shadow government played behind the scenes, carrying out the coup against President Trump. We're going to be looking behind the puppets at who the real puppet masters are. The material presented in this documentary should concern people of all political affiliations. This is about real players, people whose names never come up but should. Career politicians are definitely part of the Beltway swamp. Aspects of the deep state, not the shadow government. The shadow government consists of government contractors, defense, intelligence, security, and so on. Our government mostly consists of front-facing desk jockeys that are compartmentalized in cubicles. They're to cover up for the fact that most of the real work is outsourced to contractors, aka the military-industrial complex. That way, what the public sees through FOIA requests, investigations, congressional hearings, or otherwise, is as clean as a whistle. All the dirty work is kept private, with contractors in clandestine networks. These contractors have used their connections, power, and influence to create an unprecedented international criminal enterprise where blackmail is traded and people's personal data is gold. Two whistleblowers, Tori and Patrick Berge, who both worked extensively within the shadow government as contractors, have come forward with revelations that may be part of the biggest whistleblowing event to date.
So there we have it. You get this movie here goes on for about an hour and a half, and it talks about how connected and interconnected the technology is today, and how it is being manipulated from birth on for children as to why they believe what they believe and how they think and what becomes of them. So what are your thoughts about that, Terry?
Well, I kind of feel for the young people today because they've grown up basically playing video games and computer and phone games. They didn't get to go out and play like we did. But it does allow these players, these major players, to control and manipulate and find information on all of us. I don't follow too many conspiracy theories. I like to see facts. What the facts I do see is that we are highly led by the nose, by the leftist media, and that the truth and the logical side of the news is rarely shown, and that the left doesn't really. They're very uncomfortable when they're faced with facts, but you throw an emotional topic their way and they jump all over it.
Yeah, it's really interesting because of how the technology has advanced today, that people actually get brainwashed. They actually become part of the system and not even know it. They don't even understand that they are being manipulated or maneuvered as part of a greater design for nefarious reasons. And they don't even understand how they're being touched in that way, because if you grab somebody from childhood on, or from the womb to the grave, they won't know what is really the truth, because the truth to them is only what they know. And if what they know is told to them by everybody and everything and everywhere, then how can they know the truth when it hits them dead right between the eyes? And in terms of the conspiracy aspect of it, well, it's a fact. We are being watched by satellites. Bill Gates is putting up satellites. Apple is putting up satellites. Global internet technologies without cable, with Wi-Fi coming down from the satellites. It's about ready to go. 5G is going to go away pretty quick. We have things that happen in this world, a money situation, a political situation, that are just as blatant as can be if you see it. But that's the problem. Nobody sees it. Why is that, Terry?
Well, it's a good question. In fact, I don't see all of it myself. I'm fairly attuned to the news. However, I've had to shut down certain news programs like CNN, because it's like a whole different America, a whole different perspective. And what blows my mind is it's a loud minority right now that's getting all the oil. The squeaky wheel gets the oil. And there's a silent majority out there, though, and I think we're among them. And that's why we decided to do this program, to start speaking out, because we love America, but we're also open-minded to the facts and to listen to people. We're not trying to bully. We're not a bully pulpit. I'm ready to have an exchange with anybody who has a conflicting view as mine. I've been on this planet for 60 years, though, and I've seen what this country can do. Look, I mean, I fell through the cracks of our justice system, but I mean, it happens. I won't have a pity party over it, because for the most part, they put the right folk in jail, and they belong in there.
Yeah, it's interesting how our jurisprudence system works, because you do have a level for those that can afford the certain type of law, and those that can't afford a certain type of law. But in actuality, it all radiates from what's called maritime law. And maritime law is a concept that really is the superior law of the planet, because of oceans. We have to travel them still to get to places, and everything comes from maritime law. And if you start looking back at how society has been created, it's based on a lot of the concepts that come out of maritime law into our current judicial system. And so you have a separation of those that get a certain law and those that don't. And certainly in my lifetime, there's a separation between what has now become the left, far left, and the right, far right. A separation of ideology on the basic concepts of right and wrong gets skewed to the point now that it's really hard to understand why people don't get what is right and what is wrong. A la, for instance, arson, burning, murder, the beating up of innocent people, these destructions of our cities, these protests. How can somebody not understand that that's not the way to solve things, Terry?
Well, they're watching CNN and MSNBC, which aren't showing that. It's coming from a whole different perspective of peaceful protesting. When I personally went to downtown LA and saw the riots, I owned a security guard company in the 80s and 90s. I was actually protecting LA, me and my boys, in the 92 riots, a real race riot. And that was a very serious situation. But it would take me and one other individual to go into a building that was being taken over by these rioters in 92, and this was a serious racial riot. And I would go in there with a shotgun and a 9mm with a Yankee breakaway holster, and I'd have a shotgun, and I'd go in there and just click it. Sometimes I didn't have to fire it off. And these people would scatter like roaches, 10 to 15 people, because they felt they would get shot. And I saw the LAPD and in the Santa Monica PD when they ride into Santa Monica, sitting there with their hands in their pockets. They're basically getting overtime to guard themselves while the city is being looted by these radicals, Antifa people, and then these opportunists who combine. I mean, I literally saw these two Antifa. They were white guys too.
Yeah, well, most of them are. Most of
They're
them.
all black, and they're knocking. They're circumventing the security at these different buildings. They don't want anything. They're not going in and looting, but then they'll do a hand signal, and then the opportunity.
Yeah, the amazing thing here is the fact that you have an absolute disrespect and disregard for authority and the rule of law in this generation of millennials and Gen Zers and the end of the Gen Xers, that they feel that they cannot be harmed, that they won't be harmed. They know now that the governments, both local and state, aren't going to do anything to them. And so the violence is escalating to the point where there is actually people out there calling for civil war. The patriot American constitutionalists are finally getting fed up. People are starting to get fed up, and these Antifa, which are Marxists, supported by the likes of people like George Soros, who's a Nazi, in that respect, they don't really understand the depth of the destruction that they are starting to impose upon America, and there are people that will fight them. Don't they get that? Or is that something that they don't get at all? I mean, we lost Terry, so we'll try to get him back. And hey, Shark, I got you on the phone, so if you can, try to call back on the system using the invite, and we'll try to get you back up on there. But if you look at it, if you look at what's happening, people just don't get the understanding that how serious this can and will escalate to if they don't stop. And that's one of the things that I have a problem with, is that people have lost their complete understanding of how to protest, what to do. Because you see, I believe that it's gone way beyond the idea of peaceful protests. It has gone to anarchists. It has gone to people who are domestic terrorists. It has gone to the point now where people want to overthrow our government. It has gone to the point where they do not want to live in a capitalist society. I've often said this. I just wish that folks would be able to travel outside America and go to another place in the world and live there. And I really don't care where it is, because no matter where it is, if you go someplace else to live in this in our world today, what takes place is the fact that you will find out that there is no place like home. Like the Wizard of Oz, there is no place like home. We have carved out a country in America, in this part of the world, in this hemisphere, the northern hemisphere, that is unlike anywhere else, unlike any kind of governmental system, unlike any economy, unlike any fairness. They talk about slavery and they talk about institutionalized slavery, and there's no institutionalized slavery. I mean, if you want to talk about slavery, then you have to talk about history. And if you want to talk about slavery, you have to go back to when slavery has been around and was a primary source of income, not just for America. One of the richest North Africans ever to walk on the planet Earth, one of the richest men who was an African ever to walk on the planet Earth today, lived back in several thousand years ago. And he built his whole empire on slavery, slave trading Africans to other parts of the world. If you want to talk about continental Europe and the British Isles, the slave trade there, If you want to talk about the Moors, the slave trade there. If you want to talk about the Muslim fanatics, the slave trade there. If you want to talk about the Incas and the Aztecs and the slave trade there. If you want to talk about the First Nation people of this country, when they conquered other nations, they took slaves. Slavery has been a part of the human cause for time immortal. And we are the only country that stopped it. We fought a war to stop it. No other country fought a war to stop slavery. Not one country fought a war solely to stop slavery and the income that it produced for those states. The Civil War was about states' rights and their ability to have slaves as a primary source of income. And we stopped it. And 600,000 Americans died because of it on both sides. So the point is, people have lost their way. They've lost understanding. And with the way the fanaticism that's taking place today, and unfortunately the way people have been raised in the last 40 years, this idea of violence that I can get away with is a video game to them. And people are losing their lives. And what I don't understand is why in these cities like Detroit and Minneapolis and Chicago and Seattle and Portland and San Francisco, and even to some degree in Los Angeles, but not that bad so far at least, why are the politicians allowing this to happen? Why are they tying the hands? Why are they tying the hands of our judicial and police system? There's a reason for this. There's a nefarious alternative idea going on in the background. Because people don't act like that unless they're being manipulated from birth on and they know no better. See, one of the issues that I have with the left is that they're sanctioning this by not doing anything about it. And they haven't done anything about it since JFK was assassinated. In fact, they've just utilized poor people to attain power at all cost. And with the fake news media and the way it runs and manipulates itself today, it is so fragmented. One side says one thing, the other side says the other thing. Who's telling the truth? I tend to believe more on constitutional rights and patriot Americanism as an ideology, God-fearing. I tend to honor our flag, honor our national anthem, for those are things that men and women have died for since this country. About 2 million Americans have died, given their lives, so that you and I can live our life pretty much the way we want in 2020. You see, that's the thing. The thing is that we have to understand that the way in which the media is going, the way in which it manipulates the left. Terry's back on the line with me. He's hooking up right now. But the way in which this has been going has been instigated and propagated like fuel on the fire. And it's really unfortunate because good things have happened. There's a lot of good that this country has done for people. There's a lot of good that this country has done for people of the world. Good to have you back, Terry. Can you hear me okay?
I can hear you good, Jesse.
I mean, if you go to other parts, if you've served in the military, if you've lived or traveled extensively around the world, you come to realize that even the finest countries around the world do not live the way we Americans have been graced by God to live in, and by sweat and blood and the loss of life.
Well, hey, look, here's something too that they don't want to talk about. This is Black Lives Matter and all these other folk. Is that why are people of color, brown and black, trying to cross rivers, cross deserts, break down walls to get into this country if it's so bad for black and brown? That's the lie the left is trying to sell. And you know, I'm inspired by people like Larry Elder, Candace Owens, Brandon Tatum, on and on, the Hodges twins, Diamond and Silk, and all these people that they look at these white folks trying to tell them that there's systemic racism. They're saying, where is it? Show me where it is. Look at me. Look at all these other successful folks in America, brown and black, who are living the American dream, because this is the best system to allow people of all colors and races to make it if they just work hard. But the victimology of the left, one second, the victimology of the left, the victimology attitude, the lack of accountability, and making the government their daddy is what's holding these folks back. It's a joke, and it's a silent minority, because most folks are living the American dream, you know, prior to this COVID anyway. We can talk about COVID too. Now, that's a whole other ball game.
It always has been. When you look at America historically, it has always been a place where people that were disenfranchised from where they came from to come to start a new way of life, because they didn't want to be in the same ideology that they came from. Otherwise, they would have stayed there.
For example, Quakers and Huguenots. That's where my people are from.
Yeah.
Back in the 1700s, the Huguenots and the Quakers, they came over here because they were being persecuted.
Everybody that has come to America has come here with the idea that they can start something new, start something for the future for their families. If they work hard and they live by a code of reciprocity, a code of community, a code of God-fearing ideology, whether it's God as a Judeo-Christian or it's God from some other form of religion or spirituality. They've come here with the idea that this is the last shining city on the hill. And it has been that way since the 17th century. People have been coming here since the 1600s. 1610, okay? 1492, Columbus got lost. He never even put his foot on the United States of America. He got lost. He's down there in the Haitian and Cuban and Dominican Republic Island.
Hispaniola.
That's where he's at. Okay? The Vikings came across Greenland. The Chinese came across the Bering Strait. The Russians came across the Bering Strait. The Aborigines floated across the South Atlantic Ocean into Chile, into that part. Even the Mediterranean, North African seafaring nations floated out of the Mediterranean into the Atlantic Ocean.
The Phoenicians.
Here.
Yeah,
Way
the Phoenicians.
before Columbus.
Yeah.
Okay? So this has always been a land of opportunity. But yet, we've gotten away from teaching that in my lifetime. We don't teach it anymore. And that's the downfall of America.
Yeah, socialism's taking God out of the picture and making the government their papa and their God. You know, they're taking the poor whites, blacks, and browns. They're making the government their daddy, and then the other folks they're trying to make something else their God. But they're trying to take God out of the picture. God is what rose the blacks out of their doldrums. It got us over here. It made us a great country. And without God, man, we're nothing. And that's where we're headed. You know, you mentioned Jesus Christ, people think you're a fanatic. You know,
Socialism is a sexy name for communism. That's all it is. And in fact, it was Lenin who created the idea, because Marx was a communist, and he was flat out. But Lenin realized, he followed Marx, he realized that Marxist communism was something that he could not sell to the Russian public. So they created the name socialism in Russia. Okay? And that is just communism with a very soft, politically correct name. We have been infiltrated by communists. The left are communists. The ideology that's going on in the streets today is Marxist communism and Maoist communism. There's a difference. Communism is the problem. And we people, we wonderful band of brothers and sisters in this country had better understand that that's our fight. Our fight is God, capitalism, Americanism, the melting pot. We all work for one against an empire that wants to be a torturous, one leader, forced government.
Here's what's encouraging. Here's what's encouraging, Jesse. I take a yearly excursion every year. I get in my car and I head back south where I'm from. And I take a pulse of the American country, the real America, which is between Los Angeles and New York. I'm not saying they're not great people in New York City and in LA, but in between, there's a lot of patriots out there. And they're flying that American flag. They're not racist. They love America. And I'm talking about all different colors, black and white. And they get along great in the South. You're not seeing all this looting. You notice that? You're not seeing all this looting in the Deep South. You're seeing it in Portland, in the radical leftist, mostly white states of Washington and Portland. New York City is another example. Chicago is a mess. But the encouraging thing is folks are waking up. They love this country. But those are hardworking, farmer-type, rural people. They don't talk a lot. They're action. But they're going to start acting now. And these other folks, they just don't understand the wasp nest. They're waking up. Them good old boys. And I'm not saying small town. I'm not talking about racists. I'm talking about good old boys, black, white, and brown. They love this country. And they're going to vote in the voting box. Now, here's what the problem I have is we're a nation of courageous people. We used to be. There's few people standing up in this cancel culture, and they're cowards. They're letting BLM and a few other radical leftists who don't buy much. Why are they worried about their pocketbook? These folks don't buy much.
Yeah, man, they're out there protesting all day. They aren't working.
It's about the money, right? Why are folks firing folks because they say all lives matter? Come on. And they're scared. They're cowards. And the NBA, man, stand up to these NBA ball players who are talking about BLM. They don't know what the hell BLM stands for.
Yeah.
If they believe in the black family and the black culture and uplifting the black man and the brown and the poor white, BLM has nothing to do with that. So what are you doing out here with that on your back of your just play basketball. You don't know unless you really know what you're talking about, or go into the neighborhood, talk to the police, be that guy that brings the communities together. Don't just put something on the back of your jersey. Come on. Let's do some real work. Like Antoine Bolden. He goes into the neighborhood. He didn't just take a knee for the national anthem. Antoine Bolden was a wide receiver
I'm 59.
great wide receiver back in the day.
I'm 59. And in the last 50 years, this country, in terms of its educational system, in terms of its interaction with each other, in terms of its ideology, has shifted. It started shifting. We started seeing it in the late 1980s, but it was already shifting before then, and it really took a hold in the late 80s and 1990s, to the point now, like you said, this politically correct cancel culture society is actually, it's amazing how little these people that participate in that know of the price and the history of what made this nation so great in a short, less than 300 years. We've made the world a so much better place to live with American ingenuity and work and creativity. We've done more for the planet Earth with philanthropy and everything. We're first on the spot when there's a problem, always.
Jesse, you notice they're mostly young folk who haven't probably never even paid rent. And this COVID is the perfect storm. You've got a bunch of bored young people not working, not going to school. So let's go out and get some sun, walk around, act like we're protesting something.
And get paid.
Yeah, that's another thing. I'd love to follow that paper trail to see how they're actually getting paid because, yeah, it reeks of that. Again, I'm not a conspiracy theorist, but I've heard George Soros is the major funder, maybe Mr. Gates as well, but I'd love to see the paper trail so that it can be proven.
Well, yeah, you'll see it. It'll come out. But it's there because people have Antifa members, especially the Antifa members, and the BLM. They have already spoken. People that have left those organizations.
That's what I want to hear. I want to hear from those people.
Said, yeah,
can we get some on here? I would love to have a guest, a former Antifa or former BLM person that realizes the error of their ways.
Yeah,
BLM, you know what? I mentioned this in the beginning. I have 2 mixed daughters from black women. I'm talking with one of them. I haven't even talked to the other one ever since she fell in love with this AOC individual and disrespected Candace Owens. That's my own daughter. But look, we have to take a stand, even if it's husband, wife, father, son, daughter. We have to take a stand here. The good book talks about that. One's separated along certain beliefs. It doesn't matter who your family. I mean, look, I love my family, but this is more important than that.
There's only one stand, my friend, and that's it right there.
And you know what? The whole world needs to watch this because if we lose America as it is and was, look, we're not perfect. We're far from perfect. Shark, by the way, he's listening to all this. He got shut down somehow. But Shark and I talk about this. We're not sitting here.
Heaven is perfect. We're not.
Exactly. We're not coming off as we're perfect. We've made a lot of certain mistakes as a country, but we're still a great nation of great people.
And because of this, the United States Constitution, the greatest document ever written in the history of mankind, period. Greater than the Magna Carta, greater than anything else but the Bible. This thing is because of this document right here, the United States Constitution, and the founding fathers, and there was one woman who signed the Declaration of Independence. A lot of people don't know.
What was her name?
She was that I don't know.
We'll find out.
But I'll look it
David, look up who is the one woman that signed the Declaration of Independence. Would you, David?
Yeah, the Declaration of Independence.
Okay, he's on it. David's on it.
But here's the point. Because of this, we have been given inalienable rights to be able to become the great nation we are. And people
amazing piece of paper.
Yeah. Learning about this. I had to change that.
Now, I got crashed when I was talking about the riots. And I'm just going to say one thing. My whole thing was if I, as an individual, without a badge and a bulletproof vest or the power of the police, can go in as a private security individual, chase a bunch of folks, opportunists, out of a building. Why couldn't these officers in Minnesota nip this whole thing in the bud by standing up to them folks? Yeah, they might have got their ass kicked a little bit, but you got to wade in, man. You got to take your city back. Of course, they were handcuffed by the Democratic leaders. But if that had stopped, you and I both know there's no rioting anywhere else.
I'll tell you
what happened is all the gangsters said, "Hey, they're not doing anything in Minnesota, so let's go ahead and take over the rest of America, and let's make a little money at the same time as we're pretending to be part of the Black Lives Movement."
When Gates, I was working at K-Day in Los Angeles, and I used to interview Chief Gates every Sunday morning.
Chief Gates?
Chief Gates, Daryl Gates.
Okay, so yeah, I know Daryl Gates.
Every single Sunday morning. It was called the Police Wrap-Up. And we were really fighting the Crips and the Bloods, the gangs of the 1980s in Los Angeles.
Okay.
So when Rodney King happened, K-Day was already off the air. I was working at KGLH for Stevie Wonder on the air. And they were in the process of getting rid of, making Chief Gates retire because his police tactics were too tough, they said. And so they hired Chief Willie Williams from Philadelphia, who was the most horrible. Well, there's two really awful chief of police here in Los Angeles, but Willie Williams was terrible.
We got a quick fact for our followers. The woman who signed the Declaration of Independence, the one woman, was Mary Catherine Goddard.
Yeah.
By our research team led by David Shark, Fralick, by the way.
I was just getting to the team of the Declaration. That's right. She's the woman that signed it.
As you continue to talk, like I was saying in '92, when Daryl Gates stood down on Florence and Normandy, when the Crips had their meeting to see what they were going to do, there was a big meeting of 500 Crips or whatever, and there was about 150 cops that went to break it up. Well, they were going to fight them.
I know.
Go fight them. Do your job. Protect and serve. You're a little bit outnumbered finally. You don't need overwhelming force every time, LAPD. Once they stood back, Jesse, that's when they took over the city. Just like Minnesota.
You know why they did that?
Once they took back. Why they stood down?
Yeah. You know why they did that?
Well, Daryl Gates felt that if they kept going, it would be politically.
No. Why they did that is because there are two individuals in LA city politics run the police department. One, the individuals known as Los Angeles City Council members and the president of the city council. Okay, that's number one. The LA City Council went to the mayor and said, no, we don't want that to happen. The mayor told Chief Daryl Gates, you are not allowed to go and do what we wanted you to do. You can't do that.
Sounds very truthful. That I understand. Because I know there was a lot of LAPD officers, including Mr. Gates, that wanted to do the right thing.
They wanted to. Don't get me wrong.
They wanted to do the right thing, but they couldn't. They had their hand, just like these Democrats in the LA City Council? Predictable.
Why they forced Daryl to retire. Because they wanted a softie, and they got Willie Williams from Philadelphia. And this guy, all he wanted was be a superstar in Hollywood. He got in so much back political money laundering problems. This is the real story. Because I interviewed Billy.
It reeks of truth. It really does.
Okay, and so he was out of here in a year, maybe 2 years. And then they got the guy from New York City who cleaned everything up. But he was a very good chief of police. But that's why when the demonic National Communist Party, the DNC, took over completely over Los Angeles and the city council, unlike New York, there is no commission. There's a police commission, but they have no power over the police. Okay. Not like New York, okay, or Philadelphia, okay. So the police hands have been tied. And then when Charlie Beck became the next long-term LAPD chief, Charlie Beck, all he was a yes man.
Charlie Beck,
$500,000 a year for 10 years.
That's how much they pay the police captains?
The guy running it right now, Mike Moore, I know him. Mike Moore makes $500+ dollars a year. Do that.
So one thing I wanted to tell, Shark and I talked about this too. We're not out here saying the police are perfect by any means. I've had encounters with officers that were very arrogant, abused their power. We understand that. We totally understand that. But we also know there's 350 million encounters by the police in America every year. So for the most part, they're pretty professional and they do their job. And if you just are respectful back, you're going to come out of it safe. I don't want to hear this drama from people saying, I fear for my son going out of the house. He's going to be attacked. Oh, by the way, and Mr. LeBron James, what he said in the middle of all this was no help. and talking about how he is hunted. Black men hunted, including himself, as soon as they walk out the door. Here's the deal. Here's what I said. I had to respond to this. You know what I responded to Mr. James. I said, yes, LeBron, you are hunted by white men for your autograph, but you're 100 times more likely to be killed by somebody that looks like you. Not the police. Look, there's a lot of a-holes, and some of them are being humbled by this whole process of these protests, and as well it should be, because they are to protect and serve and be respectful. And you know what?
The problem right now is that the early retirement across this nation is up by 20%.
Yes.
All police forces, and not only that, the recruiting of young police officers going into the academy to become cops is down by 50%. What does that tell you?
Yeah, they don't want it. Yeah, because right now they're not getting that support that they need. And look, you know who's benefiting from this? The criminals. If you're not aggressive in some of these neighborhoods, these high crime neighborhoods, those criminals will walk all over you. If you're not out and you're not showing some kind of authority. Now some people get messed up in the crossfire, like innocent folk too. But they have to understand, look, your predecessors or some of your people in the neighborhood have these cops on edge. So just put your hands on the steering wheel, say yes sir, no sir, whatever. You don't have to even say that. Just say,
Larry Elder grew up in the city of Compton. Okay.
What's that?
Larry Elder grew up in the city of Compton. Okay. South Central LA in Compton.
I live in Compton, by the way.
All right. Well,
I'm in Compton right now. I live in Compton.
It's changed over the last 40 years.
It's a lot. I live in a nice, quiet neighborhood.
I know.
There's a private home ownership.
In South Central LA, known as
Some of the sage of South Central, Larry Elder, my hero.
Okay, I've known Larry for years.
I love Larry.
Okay, and we used to talk a lot more than we talk now, but I've known him for a long time. Hey, look at. He grew up right in the thick of the word. He's our age. So in the 1980s, he's a little older than us, but a little bit. In the 1980s, he grew up right there in the middle of all the drive-bys and all the drugs and the pimping and all that crazy crap that was going on by the Bloods and the Crips and all the other gangsters.
He got out. Look at
okay, but he had good parenting.
Yeah, mom and dad.
Good parenting. Okay,
yeah, mom and dad.
There's a perfect example of a guy who did not let the color of his skin get in the way of the future of his dreams. Okay, there's a guy that understood that in order for him to excel, he had to be good at what he did and work very hard at trying to become better at
True American, man. That dude is right.
What is the difference between him and the Irish indentured slave that was brought over here in 1690, okay, that worked for 7 years as a servant to his master, and worked real hard? What's the difference? There is no difference.
They talk about white privilege.
Oh,
have they been to Appalachia, West Virginia? Have they been to all these small towns? There's a lot of poor white folks in this. Look, we have to work hard.
There are more poor
everybody
than anybody. In fact,
well, we got more of them, but I know what you're saying.
Welfare, the largest percentage are Caucasian people. The Caucasian people.
Yeah, we don't just grow up white and we're successful. No, it's a process. We have to live right. We have to work hard.
This is why I like Donald Trump. Okay, because look at it. He's my New York gangster. Okay.
Trump is a gangster, isn't he?
Yeah, he's a New York gangster. Donald Trump, got $20 million from his dad. He borrowed, before his dad died, he borrowed, like all my hats, okay? He borrowed $20 million from his dad. And his dad, if you want to talk about a guy who was a hard-nosed New Yorker,
right here,
street, to fight you anytime, anywhere, that was his dad. His dad was a tough guy, a real tough guy. Okay? Donald Trump grew up in Queens. His next door neighbor was Gotti.
Right.
John Gotti grew up like 4 blocks away from me because they grew up in the rich part of Queens, the rich part.
Yeah.
And why Queens? Because Donald Trump's dad, he rebuilt all those slum, tore down, terrible, despicable apartment complexes that were falling apart in the 1970s, 60s, 70s. He rebuilt all of those, and that is in that part of New York. It's not in downtown New York. It's across the river. Okay, so he grew up. He grew up understanding how the mafia works. He grew up understanding how the labor, how the shipyards, how the trash picker, how the politicians, how the police, how everybody had to work together. In other words, he had to understand the gangster system of New York City to take 20 million and turn it into a billion or 10 billion, whatever you believe. It doesn't really matter, does
And
it?
he hired whoever would do the job. He hired people of all different races. If you could make Donald Trump money, he hired you.
Right,
You
right.
know? So all this, he's a racist. Come on.
You know,
Talk to Ben Carson. Talk to personal friends of his.
okay.
Let me say one thing. Let me say one thing about he bought one of those country clubs that was all white. I don't know,
Yep.
you remember that?
He opened it
He
up.
opened it up for everybody.
Yeah.
You know, he comes off a little rough sometimes. You know, the one thing about him, he's not a politician. He does speak
New York
some.
businessman.
You know, he's made some blips. You know what I'd love, Jesse, is if Donald Trump was a little more humble and realized, hey, I made some mistakes. I've said some things, maybe not the best way I could have. If he did that, my gosh, this would not even be close. That's
Well,
one thing. But you know what? We gotta love his strengths. Everybody's got weaknesses.
well,
You
I'll tell
know,
you this much, Terry.
I just know this: he's done more for folks of color than Obama
I'm
and
gonna,
Biden did in 8 years. He's done a whole lot more. And if you just look at the facts, you'll realize that. It's just his delivery sometimes turns some folks off.
hey, you know how many people don't like people from New York City? Just about every
You up?
way.
Hey, let's talk. Let's talk about it.
Yeah,
Right?
I mean, you know, here's the point. I don't care what anybody says. The bottom line is, he's the greatest president since Abraham Lincoln, and Reagan is number 2.
He's been very effective. I have to.
I don't
go by
care.
the facts. Yeah,
I
he's been
don't
very
care
effective.
whether he's rough and gruff. He's got a little bit of a dialect. He's pompous. He's got an ego. He wants a legacy. He wants to have his face on Mount Rushmore. Right on. Who doesn't want their face on Mount Rushmore?
We needed a strong guy. We needed a strong guy.
Here's the point.
After Biden and Obama, we needed a strong leader.
You got 2 gangsters. You got 2 gangsters in D.C. You have the professional political gangsters, okay? And you have Donald Trump. It takes a gangster to beat a gangster. And the thing about him is the proof is in the pudding. Like Jack Webb used to say, just the facts, man.
Just the facts, man.
Facts.
Just the facts.
Watch this. Watch this.
What's up? Keep an eye on you.
2 pages.
Not I.
3 pages. 4 pages.
What is that?
5. I'm going to tell you. 5 pages.
Good.
6 pages. 7 pages. 8 pages. 9 pages. 1 line. 9 pages. 1 sentence of the things that Donald Trump has accomplished in 3 3/4 years as president. Everything he's accomplished is right here. If I posted it up, if you read this, you cannot help but say this.
Post it up.
If you're true,
I'd like to read it.
you cannot help but say, man, that boy really did a lot of work like nobody else. It's unfriggin' believable.
His work ethic is unquestioned.
Just the facts.
There you go.
Simple and sweet. And the Chinese created this and sent this over to attack the Western world, trickling into America because They cannot beat us economically, militarily. They can't beat us with spiritually. They can't beat us in any way. So they have to beat us in a nefarious, evil way.
Very subtle way. We're not going to let it happen though.
Because America's great.
We're
Because
waking up.
we come from all parts of the planet Earth, and together the little splash of puzzle makes a beautiful picture, and it's called America. We don't look, we aren't the same. We don't talk the same. We don't eat the same. We don't have the history the same. But what we do have the same up to this point in time, what we do have is we do have a country that gave us the right to become one. Under God, indivisible, with life and liberty forever. Amen.
That's right.
Tell me about your book again.
Well, it's called The Rules of the Game by Terry Amos. If you Google that, it'll wind up on Amazon and hit the paperback, and you'll see the second edition. I wrote a second edition during this COVID thing. I tried to stay positive. I think I made nice improvements, added a few other stories to the book. We're trying to get made into a movie at this point. Some producers are looking at it. It's going to take somebody with some guts to do it. Once again, The Rules of the Game by Terry Amos. It's a quick read. It's a good read. It's an educational read. It talks about my experiences in the prison system, some of the violence I had to encounter and overcome, what I did before, upcoming actor, business owner, hardworking, and then what I did after as far as helping folks, acclimate from prison society. I've been out 10 years now, so I'm trying to help folks that are getting out. Because you get out, you're not coming out of the cave with all this new technology. So you need a helping hand to say, hey, this is how you go to a bank. This is how you stand in line at the market. This is how you open a bank account. This is how you use a phone. So, after 17 years, I went in when the cell phones were this big and very few people had them.
Yeah, what a month ago that was, huh?
Yeah, so it was culture shock, but those experiences inside, I write about, but I also write about some good things that happened in there and some decent people that were in there. And you know what? God got me through all of it. That's the theme of it. A close friend of mine had my back the whole way, Robert, whose house I'm managing right now here in Compton. Mexican-American, hardworking, amazing individual. So it's a book about that. It's a book about love. My ex-wife stuck with me for a long time. And friendship and spirituality, because God got me through it with my dignity. I didn't have to join a gang, and I went to some really bad prisons: Pelican Bay, Corcoran, Soledad, Lancaster, level 4, 180 design. People that know prison know that's the highest level. There's a level 4 is the highest, and then in level 4 there's a 270 and a 180. I was in the 180 at Pelican Bay.
Oh boy!
And that was my first penitentiary I went to.
Oh boy!
So, but again, I was at LA County Jail, which is worth it all, for 7 months fighting my case. So that prepared me for the violence to come. And like I say, the Lord doesn't give you any more than you can handle if you have faith in Him. You feel like it sometimes, but He won't give you more than you can handle, as long as you continue to have faith.
The name of the book again?
The name of the book is called The Rules of the Game by Terry Amos.
Right?
Yeah, you can just Google it, and it's on Amazon. I'm publishing through Amazon right now, self-publishing. And it'll come up on Amazon. They need Amazon or Google needs to update. But once you get on Amazon, you see my book, and you hit the paperback area, because it'll say out of stock or something like that. But you get that paperback, you'll see the second edition, and you'll see that it's available.
Fantastic, man. Yeah, writing the second edition, did you add a lot of new experiences, or was this more?
I reflected on all the notes and all the different experiences I had in there.
Yeah.
Added some of those. I corrected a lot of errors. I'm a first-time writer. I wasn't good. I had a co-writer help me with it, but even he made a lot of mistakes too. And I'm looking at that. I reread the book, and I'm like, man, this is not that good. There's a lot of errors in it. So I added about 12 pages to it. And I'm much more proud of this edition. Like I say, it's out there with some pretty powerful people right now, and I hope and pray that one of them takes it on and we can get this thing on film.
Hey man, thanks for being on the show. I appreciate it. We're going to do this again. We'll get the technical stuff out of the way and get a little smoother next time. And now that we kind of learn as we go, and so I appreciate you being on. You're going to come on again. You're part of the Roundup Wound Up crew. You and David Shark Fralick, wherever he may be. We had some issues there, but
He's listening to everything right here on my phone, by the way. He's right here listening to all of it.
The Shark! The Shark! We love the Shark!
He's telling you thank you very much. He's sorry for the technical issues. It'll be a lot better next time. We'll be up to spark.
Absolutely,
And,
friend. What we'll do is we'll reach out and we'll get as we get back to the Jesse T show here, and we start hooking up. We just signed a new deal with Talk USA Talk Network, and so we're working out a lot of bugs right now as we redevelop the Jesse T show. It'll be on every day. We haven't got our time slot yet, but we're looking forward to that. You can follow me on Facebook on my timeline. Also, go over to Parler.com. I'm new there. It's free speech at its finest, Parler.com. And you get a chance not to get thrown into Facebook jail. Also, YouTube, my blog site, Instagram, IGTV. Can't forget about it all. Our Twitter sites, LinkedIn, and so many others. And YouTube at www.jessetorero.com. Check out our website. That's the easiest way to access us. And, of course, this will be a podcast now. We'll do a little bit of work on it because I want to clean up some of the issues that we had earlier on. But once again, thanking David Shark Fralick for joining back up with us in Roundup Wound Up. And our new guy, Terry, the Truth Teller, man. I love you, baby. You got a great story. It was great talking with you. And we want to have you back, Terry. Will you join us again?
Thank you, Jesse. I appreciate it.
The Brown Beauty is always on duty. See ya!